It's West Dakota Fox News at 9 with Molly Martinez and meteorologist Henry Blakes. Your first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
Good evening, I'm Molly Martinez. We begin tonight with a statewide manhunt. Police are searching for 22-year-old Ulysses Villalobos, who tried to run over an officer. We have some late-breaking information to give you. Police believe Villalobos may have left the city eastbound in a white 2002 Subaru Legacy Outback. That Outback has North Dakota plates 476BJY. The Bismarck Police Department says they found evidence in the car recovered indicating Villalobos may be wounded and may need immediate medical attention. Daniela Hurtado has more on this developing story.
Molly, good evening. Police say they were at these apartments conducting a search warrant when the incident first started. Now, I spoke to the renter of that very apartment behind us, and she told me that Villalobos is actually her daughter's ex-boyfriend, and that Equinox is hers. Caution tape and police lights filled the corner of Montreal and 4th Street.
I'll be hopeful that the police catch their man.
Bismarck police say after the officer told Ulysses Villalobos to stop several times, he did not stop. The officer then had to fire at the vehicle because it was driving towards him.
The officer was not injured. We do not know if he did hit the subject that was fleeing because we don't have him, and we're having contact there.
Neighbors filled with more questions than answers. One woman told us in her 30 years of living in the area, she has never seen anything like it.
It's too bad things like that have to happen, I guess, because, Bismarck is a nice, peaceful city, but it's growing up, I guess.
Police did not specify if the search warrant was for Villalobos. We should also let you know that the officer who fired the shot has been placed on administrative leave, as that is standard procedure. Now, as for the first ever blue alert we mentioned earlier, it works just the same as an amber alert. But in this case, the statewide alert is meant to notify law enforcement indicating that a person is on the run who has threatened harm to an officer. It puts them on alert to the situation. Reporting in Bismarck for West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm Daniela Hurtado.
The suspect in this case, Ulysses Villalobos, has a long rap sheet, but most of his prior offenses are traffic related. This is the first offense in North Dakota, and his first one took place in 2015 when he was charged with DUI. On April 19th of this year, he was charged with fleeing an officer in Morton County. Then on July 5th, he was charged with assault on an emergency worker and making false reports to a law enforcement officer. Villalobos abandoned his getaway car about 3 miles southeast of the crime scene. The 2013 Chevy Equinox had his front window shot out from the officer altercation. This is on Hillview near 26th Street. By the time officers arrived, Villalobos had already fled. BCI immediately set up a perimeter. We talked to residents who had to shelter in place for several hours. This is less than half a mile away from Simley Middle School. Simley is just one of 8 Bismarck public schools that law enforcement advised to go into shelter in place today. Hundreds of students were affected as officers search for Villalobos. Cynthia McLaughlin joins us from Rita Murphy Elementary School, one of the schools affected today.
Molly, this afternoon, Century High, Horizon Middle, Liberty Northridge, and Centennial Elementary schools went into a shelter in place after law enforcement advised school administrators to do so. At 12:50, the shelter in place was lifted at these 5 schools. Then around 2:15, Simley Middle, Miller, and Murphy Elementary schools went into shelter in place as a safety precaution. All of these schools are in East Bismarck. While the shelter in place was in effect until the end of the school day, all students were still released at their normal time.
That was a decision that was made along with law enforcement or under advisement of law enforcement and what they believed was going on with the situation. We decided to release the students as normal. There wasn't at the time believed to be a threat to student or staff safety.
LaBella says a shelter in place typically means the front doors to the school are locked, but the classrooms remain unlocked. That was the case today as well, and recess was either moved indoors or canceled. Reporting from East Bismarck, Cynthia McLaughlin, West Dakota Fox, News at 9.
Burley County authorities say in their search for Villalobos, they saw a man matching his description by the Bismarck Public Library. When the man saw them, he started running. Deputies caught up and addressed him, but it wasn't Villalobos. He was placed under arrest because it turns out the 24-year-old Juan Bustamante, was wanted on outstanding warrants. All this was going on, and around 2 p.m. they sent out, as Daniela mentioned, the first ever blue alert statewide. Chances are that you got that alert on your phone. It's the same idea behind an Amber Alert, but with a blue alert, it notifies civilians and officers when there is a direct threat to law enforcement. We spoke to a National Guardsman about why they sent it out, and this is what he had to say.
From what we've learned today and how the process played out, there are some improvements that we need to put in place. And some of that is better coordination between law enforcement and Division of Emergency Services to make sure that we're putting the message out clearly.
As we mentioned earlier, 8 schools were placed on lockdown as law enforcement combed the area looking for Villalobos. For some schools, they already had an officer in the building. School resource officers are assigned throughout the day, and John Salling took a look at what those officers do for the student body and the community.
They walk the halls and get to know the kids.
Talk to a police officer. I get to eat lunch with them as well. Be involved in some of their sports activities that they do. And again, my biggest role here is to be a positive mentor for the students here at the school.
Officer Tomlinson has been the SRO for Mandan Middle School for about 2 years.
When there isn't crisis situations, he does a really good job at developing and maintaining those relationships. He'll join in our social skill lessons. He helps de-escalate kids. It's a lot more than just what you think a police officer would do. He's really an integral part of our program here.
Yeah, I know. I haven't.
Having an officer in the building does help in a crisis. They can respond immediately should the school need to go into lockdown or shelter in place.
We are very fortunate to have an SRO here at Mandan Middle School, and if it were possible, I would like to see that every school in the state has an SRO officer, because they are very beneficial for the students.
The North Dakota Association of School Resource Officers formed just over 2 years ago to help officers share ideas across the state. For West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm John Salling.
We'll bring you more information about this active manhunt as we get it, but first let's throw it over to meteorologist Henry Blakes for our first check on weather.
Once again, we have mild weather today.
Thank you, Henry. A former leader of the Montana House of Representatives was sentenced to 18 years in prison today for his role in a drug trafficking ring. Prosecutors say 57-year-old Michael Lang arranged deliveries of up to 50 pounds of methamphetamine from California to Montana and Wyoming in 2016. Lang pleaded guilty in September to drug conspiracy and distribution charges. Back in Burley, the county is looking at a $7 million bill if they decide to pave a beat-up road in McKenzie. But one resident says it has to happen. John Marquardt has lived on the road for more than 20 years. This is 249th Street Northeast. He says the road conditions keep getting worse, even damaging his farm equipment. Marquardt described what it's like living for him on that road.
But you'll see people weaving in and out of the roughness when you're driving down the road to try to avoid the roughest spots. To me, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Marcus Hill, the county engineer, says the project would still need to secure funding and land before any asphalt is laid. Well, Governor Burgum is set to deliver the State of the State address next Tuesday in Minot. In the speech, we can expect to hear about his Main Street initiative. It's an idea to help small towns grow economically by hiring skilled workforce, improving infrastructure, and promoting a vibrant, active community.
Governor Burgum will be going through his major initiatives, and Main Street Initiative is one of them. Also, education reinvention, where he's got task forces for K-12 and higher ed, talking about all these issues, how it all kind of boils together.
The State of the State address will begin at 10 a.m. on January 23rd. Our sister station, KFYR-TV, will have live coverage of the event. Well, right after Burley County Sheriff Pat Heinert announced he wasn't running for re-election, his second in command stepped up. Deputy Chief Kelly Lebin talked about his intentions to run for sheriff today at the VFW.
I've got the vision, skill, and insight to do the job, and I promise to bring the passion to the voters.
Lebin says one thing he wants to do as sheriff is implement a program to tackle the drug trade in Burley County. Well, opponents of a proposed oil refinery near Theodore Roosevelt National Park are speaking out. and they're urging state regulators to deny a permit. Hundreds of people showed up to comment on a draft on air quality permit at the Davis refinery. The state health department says the plan complies with federal and state air pollution rules. Meridian Energy Group has said the refinery would be the, quote, cleanest on the planet. The health department is accepting comments through January 26th. Speaking of parks, Fort Abraham Lincoln, south of Mandan, had more than 120,000 visitors last year, and park rangers are hoping to attract even more people this time around. The fort has already hosted snowshoers and ice fishers this winter, but the interpretive sites don't open until May 1st. So, of course, summer is going to be a busy time for them.
We always hope for more. So, you know, we're pretty weather dependent too, you know, so the weather's got to cooperate, but hopefully we're looking forward to another great year.
Trinka says she's looking forward to a nice, busy summer. Welcome back. The parents accused of torturing and starving their 13 children have officially been charged. This as disturbing new details emerge about the horrors and cruelty these children face daily. Reporter Jonathan Hunt has more from Los Angeles.
New details on what went on inside the House of Horrors. 57-year-old David Allen Turpin and 49-year-old Louise Anna Turpin are now charged with several counts of torturing and holding their 13 children captive.
The abuse and severe neglect intensified over time.
Riverside County District Attorney Michael Hestrin providing a snapshot of the unimaginable conditions inside the virtual prison, saying the children were only allowed to shower twice a year. Food was rationed and they slept all day and were awake all night. The victims told officials the parents would chain them, beat them, and even strangle them as punishment.
These punishments would last for weeks or even months at a time.
All of the victims are severely malnourished, and some lack basic cognitive functions as a result of the abuse. Police are also providing more details about the 17-year-old who exposed the horrific conditions. They say the escape plan had been in the works for 2 years. The teen took one of her siblings with her, but that child got scared and turned back.
We're fully prepared to seek justice in this case.
The couple is charged with 12 counts of torture, 7 counts of abuse of a dependent adult, 6 counts of child abuse, and another 12 of false imprisonment. And David Turpin is also facing a charge of a lewd act on a child by force or fear. The couple appearing before a judge for the first time Thursday. Their bail has been raised to $13 million each. If convicted, they face up to 94 years to life in prison. In Los Angeles, Jonathan Hunt, Fox News.
A second case of measles is being reported as a result of a traveler going through O'Hare International Airport. The Illinois Department of Health says the cases are unrelated, and the officials are saying it is not a measles outbreak. Both individuals contracted measles before arriving at the airport. The most recent reported case involves someone who traveled through the airport on January 9th. Well, terrifying moments caught on camera of a car plowing into a tow truck in Detroit. Michigan State Police releasing dash cam video. This happened yesterday. No word on the condition of the driver of that vehicle that crashed into the truck. Well, this cold snap is making for a steamy swim practice in Virginia. This team practices outdoors, but luckily the Virginia beach pool is heated. The snowstorm raged on all practice. And a police officer in Charlotte, North Carolina took a little break to enjoy the fresh powder. His partner caught video of him making a snow angel between shifts. Are we going to be making any snow angels anytime soon, Henry?
It looks like we're going to be having some snow melt.
Welcome back and say hello to Disney's newest resident. A baby hippo was born last weekend and is currently staying at the Animal Kingdom. This cutie is staying close to its mother. If you go to Disney, there's a chance you might see it on a safari ride. According to officials, this is the first hippo born at the park in 14 years. Well, we could have a new winner for the ugliest shoe in the world. These are thigh-high men's slouchy Ugg boots, and they aren't cheap. A pair of these will run you about $1,000. You can't see this because we're behind a desk, but meteorologist Henry Blakes is actually wearing a pair of these right now.
Those, no, I would not pay for those. Get paid to wear them, maybe. Depends on how much.
Today you didn't even need them.
Yeah, you didn't need them today. Definitely don't need them tomorrow either because we're still going to be above freezing. Here's your morning commute. Minot, parts of north central North Dakota down to far southwestern North Dakota. Maybe wake up to a little bit of precipitation in the form of possibly some rain, possibly freezing rain for some, if the temperatures are still at or below freezing at the time. But for tomorrow, those chances will be mostly in the morning. Afterwards, clouds, but we're still talking about 40-degree temperatures. 30s over the weekend, 20s next week with no mentions of an Arctic blast for the moment.
Could you be paid $1,000 to wear those shoes?
I need more.
We'll see you tomorrow.